Hurricane Ian is about to make landfall on the coast of Florida. So when you watch this, because it just takes a second to record and then actually get the content out to you guys, likely it will have already made landfall and you'll already kind of know the preliminary outcome of all of that. But it seems like it could be very, very devastating. That's the expectation. It's nearing a Category 5 hurricane. It's still Category 4, but it's nearing Category 5, which again could be devastating. So because this is a political show, we're going to discuss political elements of this. A Fox News host making a completely incoherent, dumb, and bizarre argument in relation to this, as well as Ron DeSantis actually giving some credit to Joe Biden at this point in time. So quickly though, as an update, USA Today, Hurricane Ian on brink of Category 5 status as it nears Florida landfall within hours. Floodwaters race down streets and into yards along Florida's southwest coast Wednesday as heavy rains and high winds from powerful Hurricane Ian blasting 155-mile-per-hour winds roared closer to landfall expected within hours. So again, that may have already happened whenever you're watching or listening to this. But then here's Jesse Watters taking this opportunity on Fox News to make a truly incorrect point, dumb point. I have no other way to describe it than that. I know that's not the most intellectual term, but that's the one that comes to my mind in relation to this hurricane about Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. Take a look.
Florida's in a state of emergency tonight as it frantically hunkers down before Hurricane Ian makes landfall. And the storm's a big deal. So did Joe Biden call Ron DeSantis to get on the same page?
He's made conversations with the mayors. So is there any reason why not the governor?
Again, we have a strong team that's in place supporting the governor right now, working side by side with him and his staff. We'll continue to stay engaged with him.
Maybe the reason Joe isn't talking with the leader of the state that's about to be devastated by this natural disaster is because he's already got the whole thing covered with the Inflation Reduction Act. Senator Amy Klobuchar laid it out for us clearly. There's no need to worry, people, because the Inflation Reduction Act and voting for Democrats is going to stop hurricanes. Listen.
We just did something about climate change for the first time in decades. That's why we've got to win this as that hurricane bears down on Florida. We got to win in the midterms. We understand that.
Is it just me, or is Amy saying if you vote Democrat, she'll drive to Florida and nuke the hurricane herself? Just asking.
So fun and playful there from Jesse Watters. So what is the point that he's trying to make? The Inflation Reduction Act, they said that it's gonna affect climate change, hopefully in a positive direction, and we're still seeing hurricanes, so it probably didn't work. No. Okay. The Inflation Reduction Act and any action you're trying to take on climate change, part of the consideration for that is to hopefully diminish the effects of climate change in the extreme weather department, right? So one of the things that happens when you have this level of climate change is that your extreme weather events become more frequent. And that's what we've seen. We've seen the frequency of these once in a 100-year events happening way more often. And we've seen worse disasters, likely because of, and you know, science tells us because of climate change. So yes, investing in climate change responses, investing in trying to lower our carbon emissions and all of those things is actually an effort to prevent so many of these extreme weather events. Now, as is always said and is absolutely true, you can't say that some level of action on climate change would necessarily have prevented a particular extreme weather event. That's impossible to know. But you know that it'll decrease the likelihood that so many of them happen. That may be too complicated for Jesse Watters to understand. I don't know. But it's funny because he made the critique about Biden not calling Ron DeSantis. Well, I'm sure when he said that, that was true. Since this clip came out, Biden has called Ron DeSantis, and here is DeSantis getting asked about that. And actually responding in a more positive way than I would have expected.
Let's talk about, you had a conversation with the president today. Earlier in the day, there had been talk that the president spoke with mayors, but not you. But apparently the president reached out to you tonight. Can you tell us about that conversation? And in the aftermath of the storm, what support Floridians can expect from the federal government?
Well, Sean, what I said today is, my phone line's open. When people's lives and their property are at risk like this, we all need to work together regardless of party lines. The Biden administration has approved our request for a pre-landfall declaration and did that very quickly. So we're thankful for that. Obviously, as the impacts are known, there's going to be more requests, particularly for individual assistance for Floridians that may have been displaced. And it's my sense that the administration, wants to help. I think they realize that this is a really significant storm, and there's a lot of people that we're working with the locals. We work very well with them, of course, at the state level, but we really need everyone working together to make sure people have their needs tended to.
Absolutely. So that is, shockingly, from Ron DeSantis, a very, very reasonable response. And I think no matter how generally politicized someone is, or vile even their politics are, when it comes to a situation like this, most people will set that aside. And I think DeSantis sees, listen, I'm not going to take this as an opportunity to go after Biden, pretend he said things he didn't, or didn't say things he should have, or all those things. He's giving us the federal government support. That's what we need. And that's what, I'm going to leave it at, right? There's no reason to create a public political feud between the president and the governor in the middle of a crisis like this. So Jesse Waters just being completely incoherent with his point. DeSantis, doing what he should at this moment in time. And we are absolutely thinking of the people of Florida and whoever else this could end up affecting. And hopefully it is not as disastrous as it seems like it could be.